Welcome back. We're Joel and Michelle, and we've been traveling full-time now for over 5 years. Our mission is to help people live a more abundant life abroad. So what does that mean?
Well, actually, we're here to help you learn how to live this lifestyle so that you can travel full-time while working remotely, or even if you're retired. We want to help you reduce your overwhelm, basically on figuring out where to begin and ultimately set you up for success, not only by living and traveling abroad, but also so that you can thrive.
We can't help people do this unless we go over some of the hard truths of full-time travel and just be really super honest with you guys. So we're going to go over some of the cons of living this lifestyle, and we want to make sure that we tell you guys that we're not complaining about this lifestyle. We actually really do love it, but this is just to kind of show you guys what you might run into, especially if you're going to be traveling full-time for long-term.
Also, there's actually a little hidden truth, bonus hidden truth in the video. So see if you can spot it and let us know in the comments. At the end of the video, we'll go ahead and reveal what that is before we close everything out. First hard truth is that you never feel settled because you're constantly moving around. Traveling full-time, you often find yourself packing up your life literally every couple weeks or even couple months, depending on how fast you're traveling. Moving that frequently can be stressful. When you're traveling full-time, you're limited to just a few suitcases. These suitcases usually contain pretty much everything you own, or at least in our case they do, essentially packing up your entire life each time. So if this is too much for you, no worries. All you have to do is just slow down. This is why we advocate for slow travel, where you're spending 1 to 3 months in a location. And that's actually how we travel. We usually try to spend 3 months or more in a destination, really just kind of depending on how much time we're allowed with our visas. Now, for instance, in that we've spent multiple months living in places like Portugal, Bulgaria, Thailand, Albania, just to name a few.
Next up is research and travel planning. This is really a full-time job, and most people underestimate how much of your time this actually takes up. I know we did when we first started traveling. And then especially if you're working full-time, this adds even more work to your lifestyle. It actually becomes a second full-time job. So just ask any nomad that's working and traveling full-time, you'll pretty much get the same response. It takes a ton of time booking flights, finding accommodations, booking transfers, and if you're travel hacking and booking on points to try to maximize your money and those points and get the best bang for your buck, you can actually find yourself spending a ton of time just researching all those options and also the routing options. Also trying to figure out where to stay in a destination, especially if it's new to you. Do you stay in the city center? Is it near public transportation? Is it walkable? What's the weather like? Those are all things that we have to take into consideration when we're going to a new country or a new city. And so kind of the list goes on from there.
So another hard truth is that everyday tasks can feel overwhelming. So let's just think about getting groceries for one. Where do you go, trying to figure out what grocery stores are the right ones, or even just figuring out what grocery stores have the kind of stuff that you're used to. For instance, maybe your favorite breakfast foods. Can you even get them there? Is it even available in town? I cannot tell you how many hours we've spent trying to find Greek yogurt and things like granola bars over the last several years in the different places that we go, because that's something that I really like to have for breakfast. Another thing is just trying to figure out, what to cook or what to eat when you're exhausted or maybe you're just really hungry, especially if you're like us where you're working while you're traveling and you just had your fill, you want something to eat. So for that, we often have some go-to meals that we do, things like maybe our favorite little pizza shop that we found in the town that we're in, salads, sandwiches, or kebabs if we're lucky enough maybe to be in the Balkans or something like that. Or if we're cooking at home, we always have a go-to thing, chicken and rice is usually what it is. And we kind of dress it up with different spices and things like that we can get locally. Another thing to think about is maybe laundry. If you don't have a washing machine where you're at, now you got to figure out okay, where's the laundry facilities? Are they reputable? Things like that. Another one is just trying to find a SIM card. Now for us, we've found that Especially on like travel days when we first get to a new country, we found like using eSIMs has really helped us out a lot so that we're not concerned about getting a physical SIM card when we get to a new place. Sometimes we don't even have to do that. We can just stick with the eSIMs. Just figuring out your everyday life is a whole nother thing, especially when you're in a foreign country or you've got new languages to kind of navigate and new cultures to navigate as well. Just remember, if you're traveling and working as a full-time digital nomad, this is going to take up a lot of your time, and it's going to eat into your personal life as well, and possibly your productivity.
Another big one is being comfortable on the road. And this is a big one for me just because I have some issues with my back. So this affects me probably more than Joel. But we've also found this traveling in Southeast Asia. The beds can be really, really hard. You might not have a couch that's comfortable. There might not be a desk or a chair for you to work in if if you have to be working full time in front of a computer. Hard chairs. The kitchen won't be stocked. There won't be any pots and pans. Coffee maker, there might not be one. So a couple of solutions for this. So when we were in Thailand, we actually ended up buying 2 comforters and we laid that down on the bed, and that kind of helped. And then actually when we're in Europe, there's almost always a kettle. So I just end up buying a French press, and that kind of takes care of that problem.
Another thing is that travel can be exhausting. Beyond just packing up all of your things, travel days, for us especially, usually start really early in the morning and often end really late in the evening or even at night. Of course, you've got all of your normal things that you have to deal with on a travel day, just like if you're going on a vacation, like getting to the airport, train station, whatever. Then you're dealing with the crowds, immigration, managing your luggage. Your flights can get delayed, your luggage gets lost en route. And this is more often because you're traveling a lot more, you're traveling all the time. So even if you're lucky and everything does go as planned, you're likely to still yet experience jet lag, especially from long haul flights. Now, the difference for us is like you're also bringing all of your belongings with you this whole time. So now you're also trying to figure out whether or not, your stuff is still safe because all your stuff is the things that you own. Of course, another thing too is dealing with time zone changes. This is especially if you're working remotely, where you might have a fixed schedule back at home.
If you've been traveling long enough, you're going to run into this next issue, and that is you're going to be going to a place that you don't like. And this will happen even if you do a ton of research on a place. You can read travel blogs, watch a whole bunch of videos, and you get there and you just don't like it. And that's okay. But then you have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to suck it up and stay, or you're going to leave? And then this becomes kind of more of a problem if you're traveling full time. Like us, we stay for, usually 1 to 3 months at a time. And then you're going to have to, decide how much of a hit you want to take on your budget, because you might have already prepaid for those, 2 or 3 months. And then if you want to leave, you're gonna be out that money. So it's definitely something to think about.
So this hard truth is a really, really big one, and essentially missing out on friends and family, and of course, all those big milestones. So for us, when we return home after a really long trip, we find that our time with our friends and family is that much more special. But it also means that when you're away, we end up missing all of the same people, our friends, our family, and we miss out on celebrating like milestones, like birthdays, weddings, or maybe even like the birth of a new baby. And then of course, there's the inevitable reality that if you're traveling for long enough, you're gonna have to deal with a tragic event involving a family member or even a friend. You're gonna have to decide how you're gonna handle this before you start traveling. Now, we generally recommend scheduling regular video or even voice calls with your friends and family, or maybe even considering adjusting the way you travel. Maybe you don't do full-time travel. Maybe you just travel part-time for a few months out of the year, allowing yourself to be home longer. Another thing we definitely recommend is also having an emergency fund set up to get you home in case something like that does happen.
Next, we'll go over managing your affairs while you're thousands of miles away traveling. So no matter where you are in the world, you're still going to have everyday responsibilities like banking, mail, paying bills, managing investments, and more. So just make sure before you start traveling, try to get everything set up online. And that includes banking apps, electronic delivery of your mail, setting up your bills for online statements, and also mail services for taxes and other important documents. It's just going to make your life a whole lot easier while you're traveling.
So now these last two, we actually discussed in our Truth About Full-Time Travel video, but we felt they were really important enough to actually include them again in this video. So the first one is that full-time travel can sometimes be quite isolating. So even if you're traveling as a couple like we do, you might find yourself in a new country where just everything is already unfamiliar, and maybe you're even exploring during the off-season where there's not a lot of other travelers around. Now, our experience in Portugal kind of sums this up pretty easily. Like, we spent January and February in the Algarve region, and let's just say it was extremely quiet there, which was nice. We actually really enjoyed the quietness, but it was also so quiet that it was like practically empty, which meant that we didn't have a lot of opportunities to find or even meet up with any other travelers. Now, in the last 5 years of our travels, we've met a ton of really amazing people, and some of them are slow mads like we are, some of them are locals, and even some are expats as well. But it can still be difficult to find those communities when you're traveling on the road, especially when you're in a new destination or when you're traveling really fast.
Maintaining a routine can also be quite challenging while you're traveling full-time. This depends on how different the culture is and how easily it can throw you off track. For us, it usually takes about a good solid 2 weeks for us to settle into a new destination. You might not be familiar with the shops, restaurants, and even grocery stores. Will often have their own unique operating hours, so things may take longer than you expect, or they might be closed. If you're coming from the United States or Canada, where stores are often open until late at night, like 10 or 11, or even 24 hours, it can be kind of an adjustment. If you're working full-time, this can really throw you off, especially if you're traveling fast, or if your work hours are in a different time zone and your work is on like fixed hours, and then you've got several hours of difference between that can be a little difficult to adjust to. Depending on how quickly you can adapt, you might be able to get back on a good routine in a couple of weeks.
Of course, there's even more considerations that we could be talking about, like the logistics of managing healthcare, maintaining a healthy diet, trying to stay fit while traveling, and of course, things like mental health and wellness. Let us know if you want us to do an episode about any of these things or anything else we didn't include.
And now you know some of the hard truths about full-time travel. And this list is just some of the realities of traveling full-time that you need to be aware of if you're planning on adapting to this lifestyle.
For even more hard truths, be sure to check out our other video, The Truth About Full-Time Travel, Is It Worth It? And for those of you who stuck around to the end, here's that bonus. Now, you may have noticed that the elbow of my shirt is torn. Well, if you're traveling full-time like we do, you're going to find yourself wearing the same clothes over and over again, and as such, they wear out really, really fast. Now, of course, if you got something out of the episode, then be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and as well as our newsletter for even more stuff like this. Thanks for watching, and happy wandering.
Happy wandering. That you just need to be aware of if you're planning on adapting. Not adopting.
Moving that frequency can be quite stressful. What now? You keep looking at me.
Because you said, instead of frequently, you said frequency.
Oh, did I?
Another thing to think about is managing your affairs while you're thousands of miles away traveling. So no matter where you are in the world, or even, God, even in space.
Yeah, you still astronauts have to pay their bills. Well, if you're traveling full-time like we do, then you're going to find yourself wearing out your clothes, wearing all the same clothes all the time, and oh my God.
Not at the same time. We don't wear our clothes at the same time.
Well, unless you're unless you're getting on the plane.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
Sometimes I wear 2 pairs of pants.
Okay.